The Rose Woman. This bizarre incident was shared by a Redditor who was left astonished by a woman while he waited to catch a SkyTrain in an undisclosed city. He was around 15 minutes from his destination waiting at the station for the train. That's when he noticed a woman with glazed eyes requesting people to help her out with some money. She came up to the man and asked him if he could spare some money. She needed it for buying flowers for her brother who was in the hospital. The man thought it was just a ruse. Despite that, he gave her $5. According to him, he was convinced that she was lying about the roses for her brother. So then his train pulled up and he got on. From the glass, he saw her walking to others, asking them for money, probably reciting the same story. He arrived at his destination about 15 minutes later, and the man walked down to a bus stop. There was just one bus going where he was headed, so he hopped on and waited for the driver to finish reading his paper before the doors closed and they were on their way. However, 10 to 15 minutes later, the driver pulled up again for a routine stop, and the man was left shocked by what he saw next. The same woman who asked him for money at the train station got onto the bus holding a dozen roses in her hand. She looked at the man and walked straight on to take a seat. The man, however, was incredibly confused by this. He couldn't decipher how she got to a bus stop far from the station he got off at, and that too before him. She didn't only beat him there, but somehow also had the time to go to a store and buy the roses. How did she get there so fast? Was it a different version of her that got on the bus, or was it some kind of social experiment? Maybe she was a doppelganger. There have been other unfathomable accounts like that. A man during a trip to California with his wife recalled on the internet that they both saw a man who looked exactly like him. He had the exact same face. It was like looking into a mirror. Maybe his counterpart from a different dimension had wandered into this one. There's no way to tell. Have you ever experienced déjà vu before? Some people have tried to explain the phenomenon using the theory of parallel universes. Déjà vu happens at many times. For example, you might feel you've had a particular conversation with a friend, and the friend swears it never happened. Or you go to a place for the first time, but feel as if you have been there before. Some people have tried to explain it as your brain playing a trick on you, because the brain receives information on one side before the other. Even though the difference is slight, it means one side of your brain processes info before the other. So sometimes the slight lag will make it appear you're experiencing something again, even though it is the first time. However, there is a parallel universe angle to it. Think of how radio operates. You can only listen to one frequency at a time because they operate at different wavelengths and levels. Parallel universes may work the same way. Since they vibrate at different frequencies, these universes could be all around you, but you don't take note. However, it is possible that sometimes two frequencies could sync or be in phase, and different universes would interact for a short time. Supporters of the theory believe that déjà vu may occur when universes are in sync for a short moment. While infinite universes may exist, they have a slight difference that makes them unique. This results in overlapping occurring between different universes. You sometimes get flashbacks of a thing you did in the past in another universe while doing it for the first time in your current universe. Two mums. This story was also shared by a Redditor, and to say it caused a stir would be an understatement. Back in 2012, this woman was staying with her mother for the last few months of her pregnancy. Her mother would leave for work around 7 in the morning and wake her up while she got ready. On the day it happened, they woke up and went about their routine. She saw her mother off, locked the door, and went to her mother's room to watch a TV show she usually watched every day after her mother left for work. But around 30 minutes later, she had to use the restroom. And while she was in there, she was scared out of her wits by her mum opening the door on her. The mother stared at her for a bit, then closed the door. She quickly got up, washed her hands within a few seconds, and went out to see her mother. However, she was nowhere to be seen. In the shortest interval of time, she appeared and disappeared. When the woman checked the main door, it was still locked and her mother's car wasn't in the driveway. She called her mother to see where she was and was baffled to hear her say that she had just pulled in to work. The woman said that whenever she asks her mother about this incident, she doesn't say anything. In fact, she doesn't even remember what happened that day. That's quite an unsettling incident that would scare even the bravest of us. How was her mother on her way to work and to the bathroom door at the same time? It's physically impossible unless we accept that it was a glitch in the Matrix where two alternate realities had a sort of mix-up. The wrong husband. Multiverse enthusiasts think that it's possible for people in different places to phase between different parallel realities, and this story describes something exactly like that. A Reddit user named Aunt Masso told Reddit that she was newlywed. She and her husband had been married for barely 1.5 months when one day she woke up at around 5:30 a.m. Her husband was sound asleep beside her. She recalls seeing a notification on her phone. It was a text from Sam, her husband. She had sent a love heart to Sam around midnight, to which he had replied asking who it was. Only Sam was deep in sleep right next to her at midnight. Aunt Masso says she's a light sleeper and would have definitely woken up if he had gotten out of bed or turned his phone on. She thought her husband was just playing a cheeky joke, so she wrote back, "Who is this?" And just a few seconds later, she got a reply from her husband saying, "I asked you first." This spooked her out. After all, Sam was pressed against her right side, sound asleep. She looked at his nightstand to confirm that his phone was still there, and it was dark and silent. She again asked, "Seriously, who is this? Why are you coming up in my phone under one of my contact names?" The person on the other side asked what name they were under, to which she replied that maybe this was some sort of a crossed wires situation. The person on the other side then asked her whether she was in a particular town. To her surprise, it was the town that they lived in. They both established that both of them were in the same town. To the person that further asked where she lived, as it might be a glitch in the system due to being in the vicinity. She, however, didn't want to give up her street address. She asked him if her number came up on his phone under someone else's name too. To this he answered that he found her among his contacts and didn't remember creating it. It was saved as Wi-Fi with a heart next to it. He was just curious to see who it was. He also told her that he lived on Violet Street. She was stunned to hear this, as her husband had saved her number as Wi-Fi but pronounced it as wifey. No one beside them knew about this cute personal thing. Moreover, she lived on Violet Street too. She said that the writing style of the person on the other side was quite familiar. She confirmed again that her husband's phone was on the nightstand and he was still asleep. She thought that someone was pranking her, so she turned her phone off and fell asleep. The next morning, she discussed the episode with her husband, who had no recollection of the event, and there weren't any text messages on his phone. He texted her hi to check whether the Sam from last night was in fact her husband's number, and to their surprise, the message popped up just below the last text from her conversation with Sam. Many think this was an interdimensional communication, and the Sam she was talking to was from an alternative reality. Could this really happen though? Could the transmission waves from different dimensions get entangled? What do you think happened here?